Good morning. My name is Laura Savia. I serve Chautauqua Institution as Vice President of Performing and Visual Arts, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the amphitheater this morning as we continue Week 5 of the 2026 Chautauqua Lecture Series. Before this morning's lecture, I do have a few announcements. You will have a brief opportunity to greet this morning's lecturer, Micah Hendler, on the back porch of the amphitheater immediately following the program. Please note that we must limit the number of people admitted to the porch and ask that you keep your greetings to a brief hello. You also have a second opportunity to hear from Micah today, as he will serve as today's 2 p.m. presenter in the Hall of Philosophy as part of the 2026 Interfaith Lecture Series. He will also partake in a meet and greet sponsored by the Hebrew congregation at 1:30 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, on the porch of the Everett Jewish Life Center. At 3:30 p.m. today in Norton Hall, Natalie Merchant will present a special program as part of our 2026 Chautauqua Master Series titled Art as a Tool for Social Change. You may register for this Master Series session right now at tickets.chq.org at any ticket desk or window, and we do also take registrations at the door on a space available basis. You all are also invited to attend one of the final few stagings of Chautauqua Theater Company's world premiere of Best for Baby, which continues its run through Sunday at the Bratton Theater stage. Tickets can be purchased at tickets.chq.org, at any ticket window or desk, or the kiosk outside Bratton Theater. If you'd like to continue the conversation on this or other lectures, we hope you'll consider participating in the Chautauqua Dialogues. They are small group facilitated discussions about the lectures you will engage with this week. Consult the Chautauquan Daily for times and locations. And please note that while dialogues are held at denominational houses, you do not need to be affiliated with the host community or any faith community to attend. All are welcome to participate in this opportunity to listen and learn from each other. In addition to our in-person audience here in the amphitheater, we are pleased to welcome those of you watching and engaging with this program on our Chautauqua Institution YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. All who are with us live are welcome to participate in the Q&A at the end of our program. You can submit questions at any point during the lecture via our question portal at questions.chq.org using the browser on any internet-connected mobile device. Our amphitheater audience may also submit handwritten questions, which will be collected by the ushers after the lectures conclude. At Chautauqua, we take pride in the environment we create as a community that welcomes a variety of perspectives as we explore the best in human values. We thank all of you in our audience for honoring the spirit of this forum and for your collegial responses to our speakers and staff and your fellow audience members this week. Lastly, out of respect for this morning's speaker and audience members around you, please silence your cell phones. This concludes the morning announcements. As we continue our week celebrating art and artists against the odds, we're honored this morning to welcome Micah Hendler, founder and artistic director of the Jerusalem Youth Chorus, an Israeli-Palestinian music and dialogue project. And the music we were all hearing as we entered the amphitheater today, those were recordings of the Jerusalem Youth Chorus. So we thank Micah for setting the tone today. Through the co-creation of music and sharing of stories, JYC empowers young singers from East and West Jerusalem to speak and sing their truths as they become leaders in their communities and inspire singers and listeners around the world to join them in their work for peace, justice, inclusion, and equality. Even in times of war, JYC continues to meet, and its singers' commitment to each other and the power of their voices raised in harmony has only grown. In addition to his ongoing bridge-building work in Jerusalem, Mr. Hendler has brought his JYC experience to the US and around the world, collaborating with several organizations working to depolarize America, including Braver Angels, the One America Movement, Convergence, New Pluralists, and Constructive Dialogue Institute, and global organizations including the United Nations, Abu Dhabi Festival, Sistema Greece, and the First World Congress of Music and Social Change. It is our honor to host Micah and family, including his wife, parents, and young son, this week on their first visit to Chautauqua. That is made possible in part by the Fogelsong Family Lectureship Fund and the Helen S. and Merrill L. Bank Lectureship. Please join me in offering a warm Chautauqua welcome to Micah Hendler.
Wow. What an extraordinary place to be on this extraordinary morning. And what an honor to be able to share some songs and some stories with all of you this morning. Thank you really for this opportunity. One moment. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. It is truly an honor to be here in this place of learning and beauty. I want to begin with two texts that have inspired me from two different eras and two different civilizations. The first, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. And the second, we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes we must interfere. The first text from the Muslim tradition, a poem from 13th century Sufi sage and poet Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, reflects what I'll call the dialogue frame of things. The invitation to set down our grievances and certainties in order to see that we are all ultimately part of one being. And the second, from the Jewish tradition, is from 20th century humanitarian and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel's Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech. And I'll call it the justice frame of things. The refusal to pretend that every conflict is symmetrical. An insistence on standing for what is right with certainty and conviction, even when it isn't comfortable for both sides. Most organizations, oh, thank you. I just found the quotes. Most organizations, most movements believe you have to choose between these two texts. Oh my goodness. Everybody okay? Okay. All right, looks like things are okay. Most organizations, most movements believe you have to choose between these two texts, these two frames, when trying to make a positive difference in the world. That you can either meet people in the field beyond judgment, or you can take sides against injustice. That dialogue and justice are opposing teams, that choosing one undermines the other. But I hold that neither is sufficient, and both are necessary if we truly want to create sustainable solutions to today's problems. Now, the question I've spent the last 20 years or so exploring is it possible to weave them together? To hold both at full strength at the same time in what I can only call an impossible harmony? I'm still seeking the answer to that question, but I'm not doing so alone. I have fellow seekers in a group of Palestinian and Israeli young people in Jerusalem called the Jerusalem Youth Chorus, or JYC for short. Before I tell you about JYC, I want to share an invitation to all of us, which is similar to the invitation we give our singers when they take on the challenging mission of building bridges between them, even when they hold deeply divergent beliefs and come from incredibly different backgrounds. I invite all of us to enter a frame of mind where we center curiosity rather than comfort. If we stay in our comfort zones, no positive change is possible. But curiosity, which I know is a central part of the magic of this place, unlocks possibility for surprise, for new revelations, for relationships to grow. If you feel passionately about the topics I'll be talking about, whether involving Israelis and Palestinians, or Americans of different persuasions, or anyone else, I might say things that make you feel seen. And I also might say things you don't like. I invite you to stay with me in each moment and see if by the end we might weave an impossible harmony together. This week at Chautauqua was about art and artists against the odds. And to some degree, even giving this lecture in a world that thrives on divide and conquer and delegitimize people who value kind yet honest conversation is against the odds. But that isn't my point. The real artists against the odds in this scenario are the kids who participate and sing in JYC. I want to start by sharing with you what it takes for these teenagers just to get to rehearsal each week. Our singers come from East and West Jerusalem, from parts of one city that are, in every way that matters, different worlds. Some cross the city past soldiers and stairs. Some come over the objections of classmates or hold the worry of a bomb threat on the light rail riding along with them. Even the commute itself has demanded a kind of courage most of us have never had to summon for a Monday evening sing-along with our friends. And on the way itself, art itself is put to the test. One of our Palestinian singers experienced this viscerally when he was stopped by an Israeli soldier on his way to choir practice. He was one of our most committed singers, yet in order to prove that he was who he said he was, the soldier forced him to sing in order to be released. Imagine for a moment how that must have felt to be that kid, and ponder how such a context changes the meaning of art itself. When that is what it costs to show up and sing, you have to ask a serious question. What is singing for, and how can we defend it? Our singers had an answer, and they wrote it into a song with a little help from our friend Melinda Reese, who is a brilliant singer-songwriter and friend who has become part of our chorus family. And I'll let them share it with you directly now in the following video.
בחיפה אל מול שדות פתוחים ראשי מסתחרר מסרב להחלים אין לי כוח להכיל את כבד השנים הכל מסתחרר בלילות וימים עכשיו אאלץ לדחוק בגפיי לגשר בליבי ראשי וידיי זה הרגע לקום לחטא פצעים לחלוק הכאב להחליט להשלים I sing for the stones beneath my feet I sing for the child that smiled in the street I sing the light and the Lord of the wind I sing to appease the demons within I don't need to sing to prove my existence I don't need to sing to fight your indifference I sing for the lessons the world hasn't learned I sing for my soul as she watches it burn I sing as the trees grow branches above and I don't need a reason to love Sometimes I fear that I won't make a change That my voice won't be heard because I will be afraid We need to rise up and sing for our pain Cause I'm feeling lost, can I be shown the way
صوتي عم بوجع من كثر ما ناديت تعبت من كثر ما غنيت وحكيت مش عم اشوف تغيير ولا اي اشي صغير ما بعني بهالحكي رح بستسلم وبطير اصحابي معاي عالطريق عم بنقاتل مع بعض بنكمل الصراع وبنعبر لكل حدا صغير عم بقول له لا تسافر ضلك احلم بلدك فيها خير غامز I sing for the stones beneath my feet I sing for the child that smiled in the street I sing the light and the load of the wind I sing to appease the demons within I don't need to sing to prove my existence I don't need to sing to find your indifference I sing for the lessons the world hasn't learned I sing for my soul as she watches it burn I sing as the trees grow branches above and I don't need a reason to love Show me the way Show me the way Show me the way Show me the way Show me the reason to don't Show me the way Show me the reason to love
The name of that song, Reason to Love, actually comes from the Jewish tradition from the phrase Ahavat Chinam, which is the opposite of Sinat Chinam. Sinat Chinam is baseless hatred, and Ahavat Chinam is its opposite, which is baseless love. And the idea that even when one is not given a good reason, that one can choose love anyway. And that really was the sort of inspiration for how we would meet this moment in song. So I wanted to share a little bit of how that song came to be. And I want to share a little bit about how the chorus came to be as well and how I found myself in this work. So I first started harmonizing when I was 5 years old. I was coming home from piano lessons, singing with my mom in the car as usual. And when I left the melody to take a harmony line for the first time, my mom slammed on the brakes in shock and delight. And that memory is baked into my mind. I was like, we're definitely going to crash the car, but everything was fine. My mom is a lifelong singer and guitarist, and that moment meant so much to her that she called it out in her toast at my wedding as the moment she knew I was truly her son. From the very beginning, singing in harmony was how we could be closest to each other. And there's something about singing in harmony that does that. That's an evolutionary adaptation of humans, that it is a technology that we can use to create a sense of we, a togetherness, a trust. And that is very important. And it was very important for me growing up as a kid because I was very awkward and very socially maladjusted and was bullied all the time, basically unless I was in a group of people who was singing. And those were the places that I felt valued and felt belonging. The Children's Chorus of Washington became a second home in otherwise very, very challenging middle school years. In 10th grade, I founded a teen a cappella group at my synagogue from a ragtag band of kids whom I'd heard read Torah on key at their bar and bat mitzvahs, and discovered that I had the power to create a community that hadn't existed before just by calling a rehearsal. And at 17, I became an apprentice to Dr. Isai Barnwell of Sweet Honey in the Rock for many, many years, a keeper of the African-American singing tradition, who taught me how to build instant singing communities out of rooms full of strangers and how to wield them for social change. At the same time, I was growing up immersed in the Jewish community, deeply immersed. Jewish day school with half of the day in Hebrew. My mom's Jewish folk band Calliope rehearsing in our living room every week. And part and parcel of that was a deep, generations-old commitment to Israel. Indeed, one of my most beloved and celebrated relatives, Ralph Goldman, worked to build many of Israel's early institutions and even became an aide to Israel's founding Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion himself. And this commitment did not come without cost. Ralph's son David was killed in the Hezbollah bombing of the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires in 1992. And all of this was true, lived experience of my family, and it was through deep love and deep blindness portrayed as the whole picture, the whole story. One day, on a 9th grade community service trip, I overheard a classmate describe a summer camp in Maine where Israeli and Palestinian kids met one another and became friends. That sounded like the craziest thing I'd ever heard, but something about it was calling to me. So I went home and I looked it up online and I applied the next day. And the camp was called Seeds of Peace. The dialogue process that was central to camp, which brought kids from conflict regions together in structured conversations about challenging topics, was transformational for me. Not because anyone yelled at me about my ignorance, but because of personal stories. Sitting in a circle in a wooden hut on a lake in Maine, I listened to my new Palestinian friends describe their lives shaped by loss, by checkpoints, by fear of the same soldiers I had been raised to see only as protectors. I began to see the shadows cast by those I had looked up to only as idols. Being in dialogue challenged everything I thought I knew from growing up. I saw how my own mind had been closed by my education, that there were things staring me in the face that I had not been able to see. That's what dialogue does. It reveals story by story what each of us cannot see on our own. We all, Palestinians, Israelis, Americans, Indians, Pakistanis, Afghans, Greek and Turkish Cypriots, came back that summer with our blind spots a little more illuminated, much grappling to do, and unexpected friendships to help us figure it all out. What I also saw that summer was that music, and group singing in particular, could still create community and a sense of shared identity, even in a context where people were supposed to hate each other and have nothing in common. And that the sense of trust and belonging that was created when we sang together was actually critical for the dialogue process to function. It is this intersection where singing as belonging meets dialogue as transformation that I have dug deeper and deeper into over the past 20 years. It has not been easy or straightforward, but it has taught me lessons for navigating and healing conflict and injustice, and a toolbox for bringing art meaningfully into that journey that I'm honored to have the opportunity to share with you today. I want to tell you an important story, an important moment that shaped the whole rest of my trajectory after this sip of water. Boom. Okay. At Seeds, I learned about Asil Asle, who is a Palestinian citizen of Israel and a Seeds of Peace legend. He was a camper in the early years, in the 90s, whom I never met, but whose life irrevocably shaped the course of my own. Asil was a peacemaker and a budding leader who found his purpose at camp. He regularly hosted Seeds friends of all faiths at his home and was so committed to keeping in touch with everyone that his chain letters eventually formed the first Seeds of Peace alumni listserv. In October of 2000, at age 17, 4 years before I'd ever heard of Seeds of Peace, Asil attended a protest against the occupation and discrimination his people were experiencing. And though he was protesting non-violently, he was chased into an olive grove by an Israeli policeman and shot at point-blank range. He was buried in the Seeds of Peace t-shirt he was wearing when he was killed. Israel convened an official state commission of inquiry to investigate the protests in which Asil and 12 other Palestinians of Israel citizens of Israel were killed that October. The commission condemned the police's use of lethal force, and still no one was ever indicted. Not for the death of Asil, not for any of the deaths. And that is a hard truth that I've had to learn and keep learning, is that the absence of accountability in so many cases is not the exception, it is closer to the rule. And that's also one of the most tragic pieces of the violence in Israel and Palestine, that it is completely agnostic to a victim's own views, attitudes toward the other, or even actions toward a better future. The Israeli policeman who shot Asil in 2000 didn't bother to ask him first whether he believed in peace. And the Palestinian militants who killed Vivian Silver, a fellow peacebuilder of mine, on October 7th, didn't first stop to learn that she spent much of her time helping Palestinians from Gaza get to Israeli hospitals for medical treatment. They were too full of hate and fear and an assuredness that what they were doing was right to consider the human being in front of them. Every camp session held a memorial for Asil, and we all learned his favorite quote, the Rumi poem I opened with this morning, "The field out beyond right and wrong." And to me, that poem contained the most essential wisdom I had learned my first summer in dialogue, the importance of getting past an assuredness of one's own narrative to be able to truly meet someone else. So I set the poem to music, being a musician, and I wrote a choral piece called Asil's Field, dedicated to his memory. And the summer after high school, when I was in Jerusalem refreshing my Hebrew before going on to study Arabic in college, I rode 4 buses north to Arabe, a town in the Galilee so small you have to ask the driver to stop there just for you, to bring that music to Asil's family. They welcomed me with extraordinary hospitality. We sat in their garden, and they shared their grief and their 7-year fight for justice that the Israeli government kept finding new ways to deny. Diving into the depths of their sorrow and the desperation it induced rocked my world. But I had come to share beauty, to share my art. I wanted to help. So finally, by 11 o'clock that night, after dinner and tea and coffee and dishes, and a little bit of Kulthum on the radio, I finally was able to play Asil's family a recording of the piece that I was so proud of, the most profound music I'd created in my whole almost 18 years of life up until that point. And we began to listen together as the melody I had written sailed across the room. First, as a lone voice in the universe searching for a place to land, out beyond, just floating in the air. Then, underscored by a sound cloud, a funeral dirge. The third time, bringing in more rhythmic elements and breaking through to the sound of the beyond, an ethereal choral texture that held the soul in its fullness, where it could rest and also work through the travails of the world. And then, finally, returning, hopeful, yet with a remembrance of melancholy, recalling the beyond as the arcing voices stretched out to meet one another at the very end. I looked up from the score in anticipation and hope, and simply saw blank stares on their faces. They weren't moved at all. They thanked me politely for coming, but my music clearly had not meant anything to them. It took me months to process that day, And when I began to make sense of what had maybe happened, one question gnawed at my core. Why did I assume that my music would be meaningful to them in the first place? People often tell me they get my work with the Jerusalem Youth Chorus because, quote unquote, music is a universal language. But it is so much more complicated than that. I had heard classical Arabic music for the first time only a few days before I met the Asles. I was writing with musical stereotypes, and they did not land. It was just another blind spot that I had. What actually connected me to the Asles that day wasn't my composition, it was sitting in their garden, listening to their stories. That night, they gave me a seal's room to sleep in. I lay awake in the bed of a boy who believed in this field, who was killed at the same age that I was when I lay there, and I asked myself a question that has driven me ever since. What is my responsibility? What am I going to do with the skills, passions, and understandings that I have, and the opportunities that I have been given that Asil was denied? That experience was a catalyst for me. I traveled to Damascus the last summer before the Syrian Civil War. Nobody knew that it was the summer before the Syrian Civil War, to study Arabic and Arabic classical music in pursuit of illuminating more blind spots. At Yale, I wrote my senior thesis exploring whether what I had experienced at Seeds of Peace, a summer camp in Maine where you control all the variables and no one can leave, could survive on the ground in Jerusalem where you control no variables and everyone can leave. And my thesis was inconclusive. So in 2012, just after graduating from college, I moved to Jerusalem to find out. The first few months were pretty rough. Knocking on doors, calling schools, trying to convince skeptical teachers and parents that this could work, was worth investing in, taking a chance on. There were many times I thought I would not get enough kids to form a chorus at all. And then, more than 80 teenagers showed up to audition that first year, most of them Palestinian, which surprised many people, including me. We were tapping into something that these kids needed deeply, a space where they could be heard and belong. Since then, and we're now going into our 15th season this fall, high school students from East and West Jerusalem come together to rehearse. The music is the draw. We sing music that weaves together the different traditions our singers bring with them from home and find the resonance between them. It's a beautiful pursuit. You heard some of it as you walked in this morning. Those were all different JYC songs. But the heart of the program is what happens when the singing stops: dialogue. Facilitated conversations where these teenagers share their stories, confront their fears, and challenge their assumptions about the other. Conversations about identity, about justice, about what it means to share a city and maybe even a future. These sessions are hard. Singers learn to speak from their hearts, to find their own voices off stage as they do on stage. And sometimes they say hurtful things. But within the context of the chorus, they have a chance to repair the damage. That's what dialogue is for. A safe space, and more importantly, a brave space to learn and grow, to make mistakes, and sometimes, even years later, to be able to fix them. Reconciliation does not happen overnight, but it can happen if we create the conditions for it to take root. And we must, as part and parcel of the pursuit of justice, because justice without reconciliation is simply vengeance, moving the oppression from one side to the other in a volley of violence just waiting to be returned. I believe, to the core of my being, that any positive future for Israelis or Palestinians must be a positive future for Israelis and Palestinians. We are not going to get to that shared future without partnership. And we will surely not get to that shared future if we can't even imagine how it could be possible. In the ever-descending darkness of our time, peace and justice feel so very out of reach. And that is precisely where singing begins. The third element of JYC's secret sauce is performance, both as a shared goal and as a platform for social change. Our concerts are not just for the sake of entertainment or even inspiration. They are a real demonstration of a different future on stage in the present, and a call for the world around them to look and sound more like JYC. Thank you. Performing gives our singers one shared goal that they care about so very much and truly believe in, to raise their voices for themselves, for their peoples, and also for one another on that stage. And their voices have resounded to millions. We've performed on America's Got Talent and on TED's main stage in Vancouver. We've sung on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and at the United Nations. We bring a message of relentless hope grounded in relationships and reality. But we are always cognizant of not being used as a cover-up for systems of injustice, and have turned down many tempting opportunities to keep our impossible harmony in tune. When the Biden White House came calling after October 7th and asked us if we would perform, we said no. We would not provide the soundtrack while the administration was largely funding war. But we negotiated for a policy meeting. And our kids sat in the Secretary of War suite with National Security Council staff, presented policy positions that our singers told personal stories to back up, from a ceasefire and the return of all the hostages to humanitarian access for Gaza and investment in peace building, and told the personal stories behind them for over an hour. The staffers stayed well beyond the end of the meeting and didn't pick up their phones a single time. And that's a lot for people working at the White House. And then, before we left, we sang about a different way, to underscore our critical policy points with the emotional power only music can convey. Our singers are not the entertainment. They are eloquent proof for people who have all but given up that an alternative to endless violence can exist. Now, none of this comes free for the organization or for our singers. Shifra, one of our founding Israelis, whom you heard singing the English solo in Reason to Love right before the rap, is an Orthodox Jew who went to a religious Orthodox school. She was attacked by her rabbi and headmaster, who tried to drown out her voice as she spoke about the chorus in class. So she stood up on a chair and spoke more loudly. And Amer, the rapper in the music video that came right after Shifra, is now leading the Jerusalem Youth Chorus with me as our executive director. And he was publicly shamed and ostracized in East Jerusalem for his work with Israelis. When an anonymous activist brought down the wrath of BDS, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, onto JYC and onto Amer personally, calling him a traitor to the Palestinian cause. He was yelled at gas stations. His dentist refused to treat him anymore. He feared for his family's physical safety. And yet he persevered. We have kept singing even after the last 3 years. The massacre of October 7th, with thousands killed, a music festival itself ravaged, hostages dragged into Gaza, and the annihilation that has rained down on Gaza ever since, killing tens of thousands, extinguishing entire family lines, and leaving a society in ruins. Every singer in our chorus has been haunted by this cycle of depravity from one direction or the other, or both. Almost everyone knows someone who was kidnapped or killed. On October 7th, even I experienced visceral fear and rage that challenged a cultivated commitment to nonviolence that I had been working on for 2 decades. That day, I felt my own intergenerational trauma rising in me like bile in a way that I could not deny. Vivian Silver, whom I mentioned earlier, whom I'd worked with many times, could easily have been me. It would have been so easy so understandable for everything the chorus had built to collapse. But instead, we've only gotten stronger. On October 7th, Amer and I had a long conversation. We had no idea what to do, what we could do. We thought, maybe this is bigger than us. So we called a JYC family gathering, a meeting of singers, alumni, and their parents. And we asked them plainly, is this the end of the road? And in one voice, our community responded, no. We must continue to meet. Now more than ever, we need each other. And so, despite it all, we have continued to meet. Despite deterioration on every front, and communities retreating into their corners, and rockets and bombs, and the extremists in power in Gaza who've sacrificed their own citizens on the altar of violent resistance and terror, and the extremists in power in Israel loudly and unashamedly pursuing ethnic cleansing and genocide as somehow an answer to all of this. We sing. The Jerusalem Youth Chorus raises our voices against this insanity with a clear and powerful message that we have rallied around ever since. We don't all share the same opinions, and we have hard conversations about them every week. But we do share the same future, no matter what the politicians say. We know that we do not have the power single-handedly to stop war, but we also know that the reason that war continues is because people think there isn't a different way. We are the different way. So for years, I thought about this work as something that happened over there. But that was another one of my blind spots. I watched the 2016 US election returns from an old apartment outside Damascus Gate in Jerusalem with friends who also worked with Palestinians and Israelis. I was an expert in us versus them mentalities, zero-sum framing, existential threats from the other side, multiple realities. And I had never thought to apply those concepts in my own backyard. But when I woke up the morning after the election, another veil had lifted, just as it had in my first dialogue experience at Seeds of Peace. My home was on fire too. And since October 7th, the two fires have only more merged, feeding each other. Israeli-Palestinian politics and American politics have been jacked up into an ear-splitting, entangled feedback loop, each amplifying the other's most discordant screams on campus, in our politics, in our faith communities, and at our dinner tables. Over there has become over here in so many ways. America's crisis, like Jerusalem's, is really two crises at once. We have a polarization problem, neighbors who can't look at each other, families who've stopped speaking, and we have a systemic injustice problem. The murder of George Floyd made undeniable to millions what communities of color have known for generations. Here's the trap. Each problem seems to demand a response that, in isolation, makes the other worse. Bridge building alone can airbrush over injustice. Dialogue in a vacuum without a critical lens isn't just insufficient, it can actively cause harm. But justice-only approaches have their own failure mode. Purity tests that write people off before they have the chance to learn or grow or be understood. I've watched these litmus tests alienate the very allies a movement needs. I myself might never have been ever able to confront my own blind spots if I'd been written off based on first assumptions. So the work in Jerusalem and in America is what I call threading the needle while moving the needle. Threading the needle in this scenario is finding common ground, meeting people where they are and welcoming them anyway, exposing everyone to stories that complicate their world. Moving the needle is unequivocally naming structural inequities and working to right their wrongs. It is really, really hard to hold both of these things at the same time. like brain-splittingly hard, to hold conviction and curiosity in the same breath. Rumi and Wiesel, the field and the taking of sides. And yet, we come back to art, as human beings always do in the toughest and most confusing and confounding and challenging times. So I want to share a song with you that I wrote as my best attempt to do both of these things at the same time. And it's called What to Do. What to do with this broken world we live in? Oh, banners unfurled will soon be torn to ribbons. Unrelenting in cruelty. If you're in a cage, then that makes me free. Will we be forgiven? Are we doomed to stoop so low? 'Cause it's hot as hell here below. Our fires are our only glow. Will we ever get a chance to grow? What to do with this broken world we live in? Oh, so swift to judgment, our bonds, our worlds, our souls are riven. Obsessed with our purity, digging trenches between you and me. Can we be forgiven? We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. Our blindness is what we sow when we don't make the time to take it slow. Or see what you could have to show me. Will we ever get a chance to grow? Or begin again? I see you. Do you see me? Is there someone out there looking across the sea to show me all the things I do? If I were you, if I knew what you knew and had lived what you've been through, who could give me a clue how to walk in your shoe till there's no me and no you? God, I hope it's still true. What to do? Open hearts and lift up voices. Open hearts and lift up, lift up, lift up. And lift up voices. Thank you. Thank you. So that question, what to do, is in many ways my inheritance. My parents named me after the prophet Micah, specifically after his most famous biblical verse. What does God desire of you, O man, but to do justice and love mercy and to walk humbly with God? And as I think about my path and rejecting the either or between seeking dialogue or justice, instead walking the long road to integrating both despite all the paradox, I find myself in my name. And ultimately, I think the work comes down to the third element of the verse, the urging to walk humbly with God. Whether you are a person of faith or not is not the point, or at least not my point. But to understand that we don't understand it all, that we are not the arbiters of all that is good and evil, and yet that we must walk with God and do our best to create that which is good with the abilities, understandings, and tools that we have, that is the task of our time and all time. And this message is at the core of the work that I've been doing over the past 2 decades, and it is also at the core of the book I am currently writing, entitled Impossible Harmony, coming from HarperCollins in 2027. Impossible Harmony will tell the story of the Jerusalem Youth Chorus as a proof of concept and a call to action. Evidence gathered over 15 years in the most divided of cities that humanizing one another is not naive. It is the starting point for any positive, sustainable change. You cannot build a coalition, change a policy, or heal a society with people you have stopped seeing as human beings. Writing this book has been healing for me and empowering, to be reminded of how these singers have overcome every conceivable obstacle put in their path and continued singing. I hope that reading it will be just as empowering for people who feel like hope is so far away. But as my friends Aziz Abu Sara and Mao Zinon, bereaved men from opposite sides of this chasm who emerged as brothers in vision, emphasize, hope is an action. And so here are my calls to action for you today. Take out your phones and scan the QR code, if you like, that should be coming up right here. And I'll explain what's there. There are 4 things at this link that you can do, a choose your own adventure of social change, all available right now. The first is to help sustain and grow the Jerusalem Youth Chorus. These singers and this work rely on people like you who believe in the best parts of humanity to support them against all odds. The second, follow along as I write Impossible Harmony. I'm documenting the process and sharing ongoing thoughts and inspirations on music, bridge building, and finding hope in dark times on Substack. The third, JYC has just received a major grant to establish an alumni supergroup of musicians, storyteller, facilitators, song leaders who will go out into neighborhoods around Jerusalem and communities around the world, helping folks heal division and humanize one another towards the cause of peace, justice, and a shared future for all of us on this planet. So if you're thinking, my congregation, my school, my town needs this, you're probably right. And you can get in touch with us through the interest form that's also at this link. And fourth, and the final and most important action, and it costs nothing and everything, is to mend a relationship that has been strained over the last 10 years. We each surely have one, an old friend, a sibling, someone you stopped calling somewhere around 2016 or 2020 or 2023. Reach out. Start with listening rather than speaking, curiosity rather than judgment, and see what happens. Bonus points if there's music involved. And I'm here at Chautauqua through tomorrow night. So if you actually do that, fourth one, find me and tell me about it. I really want to hear and to know how it went. But I don't want to send you off without a rehearsal first. And healing our communities through song and story is a participatory art form. And the best way to understand it isn't to hear about it, it is to do it together, right now. So repeat after me. Raise your voice, walk with me. The thunderous sound of the Chautauqua Amphitheater. Raise your voice, walk with me. Raise your voice, walk with me. That's it. So, goes like this. Raise your voice, walk with me. Can we do that? Ready, and raise your voice, walk with me. Do it again. Raise your voice, walk with me. And again, raise your voice, walk with me. And again, raise your voice, walk with me. Beautiful sounding amphitheater. Yes. Bless you. So that's the first part of 3, language 1 of 3. The second part is in Hebrew. The words are, Harimi et kolech. You can do it. Boi iti. So, harimi et kolech. Boi iti. Any Hebrew speakers in the audience know what that means? Yes. Crushed it. Thank you, Rabbi. So, that is exactly what it means. And if we had raise your voice, walk with me, this next part goes, Harimi et kolech, boi iti. Can we try that? 1, 2. Harimi et kolech, boi iti. Harimi et kolech, boi iti. Harimi et kolech, boi iti, harimi et kolech. Boi iti, harimi et kolech. Boi iti. Very good. And don't worry about getting the words totally perfect. The point is the singing. The last part is in Arabic. The words are irfa sotak, imshi ma'i. Beautiful. Anyone want to guess what that means? Exactly. So it goes like this. Irfa sotak, imshi ma'i, and irfa sotak, imshi ma'i. Or you can do irfa sotak, imshi ma'i. Or you can do irfa sotak, imshi ma'i. It's all the same. So pick whichever feels most comfortable for you, and we're going to do that again a couple times. Irfa 3 and Irfa Sota, Him Shimai and Irfa Sota, Him Shimai. One more time. Great. Those are the 3 parts. I'm not going to give you any more parts in any other languages. But we are going to see what it sounds like to try to weave them together. Uh-oh. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to say, folks, here in the middle, all the way back, you are singing in English. Congratulations. Folks over here, you are singing in Hebrew. Also, congratulations. And folks over here, you are singing in Arabic. Alf Mabruk. The most congratulations. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to start the English, and everyone can start on the English if they want, till it feels really, really good. And then you're just going to keep singing it. And then we're going to add on the Hebrew. I'll help you. I'll remind you how it goes, so that that feels really good. And then we're going to add the Arabic, and then we're going to see what happens. Cool? All right, here we go. Raise your voice, walk with me. Let's do it. Raise your voice, walk with me. Keep it up. Raise your voice, walk with me. Without me. Keep it. Here we go. Havini et kolech, boiti. Havini et kolech, boiti. Havini et kolech. Boiti, harimi et kolech. Boiti, harimi. There you go. All right. Et kolech. Here we go, Arabic. Boiti, harimi irfa sota. Him shimai irfa sota. Him shimai. That was amazing. Thank you for that very large and hopefully very fun social experiment. And if that felt good, if some part of you woke up just now that you'd forgotten about, I have very good news, that we are just getting started, and there's a lot of singing to do yet today. This afternoon, as part of the Interfaith Lecture Series, I'm leading a full community sing here at Chautauqua. So 2 o'clock in the Hall of Philosophy, no experience necessary, no talent required, especially if you think you can't sing, you should come. Yes. Come ready to use your voice and meet your neighbors, because everything I talked about this morning, we are going to do together this afternoon. It's going to be awesome. So I want to close simply by saying thank you to Chautauqua and to invite us all to keep being human, to keep being curious, and to keep singing. Thank you. Truly, truly, thank you.
Thank you, Micah. Before we move to the question and answer session, I have a correction to the morning announcements. Natalie Merchant's Master Series event is indeed at 4 p.m. at Norton Hall. That's the time printed for ticket holders on your tickets, not the 3:30. Natalie Merchant at 4 p.m. today in Norton Hall. For those of you who are leaving for other programs, we ask that you do so quietly until you have left the amphitheater out of respect for those who are staying behind, as we now transition to Q&A. If you have questions for Micah, you may submit them through our ushers who are circulating and can provide slips of paper and pencils. You may also submit questions at questions.chq.org. Micah, I love this question that came in already. Your focus on empowerment, dialogue, and inclusion, deeply important work. But do you see JYC as contributing to structural change in how Israelis and Palestinians relate politically, or is the work more about personal transformation?
Thank you to whoever asked that question, because it's the million-dollar question already off the bat. And that is really, I think, in so many ways, the question of this whole week is like, what is the lever of power that the arts can wield in the political realm? And what I can say is our impact we view in three concentric spheres. So the first is the impact on the participants themselves, that interpersonal change, the relationship building. The second sphere is the impact that these singers have in their communities, ways of opening up people's minds, people's hearts a little bit more. And then the third is the power that we have as a performing ensemble to try to change political discourse. Now, for us as an organization of our size, to try to go up against all of the political interests that drive the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I don't think it would be, like, let's just say, I don't think it would be a fair standard to say, why haven't we fixed it yet? But we're doing everything that we possibly can think of to leverage every platform that is available that we can appear on and with honesty and integrity to shout and sing from the rooftops of an alternative political imagination. And I think without that imagination, we definitely will not get there. So that's our lane. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. There's a beautiful question about the parents. And I want to point out, you are a parent. Your son Elias is here, and some of us got a shout out from Chris Jackson, best friend of Elias. By the way, what age do you expect Elias to start harmonizing? 5 as well?
At least.
At least. But here's the question about parents. Are the parents of the singers in JYC also engaged with the choir? If so, what are the gatherings with the parents like?
Also an amazing question. So the answer to that question has actually evolved over the years. In the beginning, when I was more or less doing most of the things myself, we didn't have the capacity to have like multiple programs. And so And we were recruiting directly to the singers themselves at schools. And so often we would find a singer who was really excited, whose parents were really racist, and that was a challenge on both sides. Parents who would pull their kids or tried to do other things to get their kids to leave. And we had to confront that, and sometimes we succeeded and sometimes we didn't. One of the things that that has been most powerful, I think, over the years is the way we were actually to start engaging the parents on their own terms and with their own program and with their own needs. And this year we now have a parents program where the parents meet to talk about topics that they select, that they care about. So for example, one of the topics that they talked about last was, what do I do when my kid is stuck at home during a war and all they're seeing is social media? What do we do about these phones? And how do I help my kid be okay in this time? That was the topic of the last parents' meeting. And this is an issue of quite shared concern for the Palestinian parents and for the Israeli parents. And so we are creating a facilitated space for them not only to talk about something that they really care about and get information that they really want, but to do so together and to see one another in that context. And so that is one of the things that's really led to now the support that we have from the parents in the program that sustained us through this time.
Thank you. There's so many great questions coming in. This will have to be our last one. There are questions about the people and the geography and how far geographically and socially your work is reaching. I'll ask this one. Have you tried getting Jews living across the Green Line in the West Bank, or Muslims, Christians, and Druze living in Israel proper involved in the chorus? And there are questions about Gaza as well.
So many questions. What we have started at the scale that we're currently at, we are doing this work in Jerusalem with East and West Jerusalem communities, and that's where we've started. This work is obviously applicable and necessary, and I think could be very, very powerful in many, many different contexts. And I've seen it in many contexts, even just in like microcosm when we visit different communities to give a workshop or to do a concert. And really what we're thinking about now is what is the scale that this can reach? Because the need is almost infinite, and the solution actually works in its own way. And so we would love to be able to do this work with folks in all of these different geographies and also around the world. That's one of the things that our fellows are going to be doing this year, this new alumni supergroup, and something that we'd like to do more of with the resources to do it.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us inspiration to take this work into our communities and the offering to connect with you further. Micah Hendler, thank you.
Thank you.